The summer air hung thick and heavy over Bucharest on that August evening in 1992 as 300,000 souls pressed together in the vast expanse of the National Stadium, their voices creating a symphony of anticipation that seemed to vibrate through the very foundations of the earth beneath their feet. The stage stood like a monument in the distance, bathed in the golden glow of countless spotlights, while somewhere in the darkness behind the massive curtain, the king of pop prepared for what would become one of the most emotionally charged performances of his entire career. The crowd had been waiting for hours, their energy building like a storm about to break. But in this moment before the show began, there existed a profound silence, the kind that only comes when hundreds of thousands of people hold their breath in unison, waiting for magic to unfold before their eyes. As the opening chords of Jam thundered through the massive sound system, Michael Jackson appeared on stage like a vision materialized from pure starlight, his sequined military jacket catching every beam of light and throwing it back to the crowd in brilliant flashes that seemed to ignite the very air around him. The audience erupted in a roar so powerful it could be felt in neighboring cities, a wall of sound that rose up from the earth like a tidal wave of pure human emotion. For the next 2 hours, Michael commanded that stage with the grace of a dancer and the power of a god, his voice soaring over the crowd as he moved through hit after hit, each song building upon the last, until the entire stadium seemed to pulse with the rhythm of 300,000 hearts beating as one. The crowd swayed and screamed and sang along to every word, their faces illuminated by the stage lights, tears of joy streaming down their cheeks as they witnessed something truly transcendent unfold before them. But as the show neared its planned conclusion, something extraordinary happened that would forever change the lives of everyone present that night. During what should have been the final song, Michael suddenly stopped mid-performance, his hand raised to quiet the massive crowd as he walked to the center of the stage, his breathing heavy from the intense performance, sweat glistening on his face in the bright lights. The silence that followed was deafening, 300,000 people frozen in anticipation, wondering what could possibly cause their idol to halt the show at such a crucial moment. Michael stood there for what felt like an eternity, his eyes scanning the vast sea of faces before him. And when he finally spoke, his voice carried across the stadium with a clarity that seemed to reach every single person present, his words cutting through the night air like a blade of pure compassion. "Tonight," Michael began, his voice trembling with emotion, "I learned something that has broken my heart and filled me with a purpose I cannot ignore." The crowd remained perfectly still, hanging on every word as he continued, his hands gesturing toward the audience with the same grace he brought to every movement. "There are children, babies no older than 3 years old, right here in your beautiful country, who go to bed hungry every single night. They close their eyes not to dreams of toys or games, but to the ache of empty stomachs and the hollow pain of malnutrition." A ripple of understanding began to move through the crowd, and in that moment, the atmosphere shifted from celebration to something far more profound, a collective awakening to a truth that demanded action. Michael walked to the edge of the stage, his silhouette outlined against the brilliant backdrop, and as he spoke, his voice grew stronger, more determined. "I cannot leave this stage tonight knowing that somewhere in this city, a 3-year-old child will cry themselves to sleep because they are hungry. I cannot board my plane tomorrow knowing that I had the power to help and chose to look the other way." The crowd began to murmur, a low hum of agreement that grew louder with each passing second, and then Michael did something that no one in that stadium would ever forget. He removed his iconic black fedora, the same hat that had become synonymous with his performances around the world, and held it high above his head for all to see. "This hat," he said, his voice now carrying the weight of absolute conviction, "has been with me through every show, every dance, every moment of magic we have shared together. Tonight, I want to auction it off, right here, right now, and every single penny will go to feeding hungry children." The reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. 300,000 people rose to their feet as one, their voices joining together in a cheer so powerful it seemed to shake the very stars from the sky. Tears began to flow freely throughout the crowd as the magnitude of Michael's gesture settled over them like a warm embrace. But Michael was not finished. He called for paper and pen to be brought to the stage, and as the crowd watched in stunned silence, he began to write, his movements deliberate and filled with purpose. When he finished, he held up the paper and spoke again. "This is a pledge," he announced, "a promise that I am making to every hungry child in Romania tonight. I am extending this show by 1 full hour, and every ticket stub from tonight becomes a donation. Every person who attended this concert has now contributed to the fight against child hunger." The emotional weight of the moment became too much for many in the crowd to bear, and as Michael's words echoed through the stadium, a wave of tears began to sweep through the audience like a gentle rain. Grown men wept openly, mothers clutched their children tighter, and young people who had come simply to enjoy a concert found themselves part of something infinitely more meaningful. The silence that followed Michael's announcement was profound, broken only by the sound of hundreds of thousands of people crying tears of joy, of pride, of overwhelming love for the man who had just shown them what true compassion looked like. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible untold stories of Michael Jackson's legendary compassion and the moments that revealed the true depth of his extraordinary heart. As Michael placed his beloved fedora on a small table that had been brought to the stage, the bidding began spontaneously from the crowd itself. Voices called out from different sections of the stadium, each bid higher than the last, as people offered everything they had in their pockets, their jewelry, their most precious possessions. A businessman in the front row stood up and shouted an amount equivalent to his monthly salary. A group of students emptied their backpacks and pooled their resources. An elderly woman removed her wedding ring and held it high, offering it as payment. The scene was unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed at a concert before, a spontaneous outpouring of generosity that seemed to transform the stadium into something resembling a cathedral of human kindness. Michael watched this unfold with tears streaming down his own face, and when the bidding reached an amount that would feed thousands of children for months, he raised his hand to quiet the crowd once more. "The winning bid," he announced, "belongs to all of you. Every person in this stadium tonight has won, because together we have just changed the world for countless children." He then did something that no one expected. Instead of giving his hat to the highest bidder, he carefully cut it into small pieces, each no bigger than a coin, and announced that these pieces would be distributed to local charities throughout Romania, with each piece representing a promise to continue the fight against child hunger long after the concert ended. The extended hour that followed was unlike any performance Michael had ever given. His voice, already strained from the emotional intensity of the evening, took on a quality that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his throat, somewhere in the region of his soul. He sang "Heal the World" with such raw emotion that the entire stadium sang along, 300,000 voices joining together in a chorus that seemed to rise up to the heavens themselves. During "Man in the Mirror," the crowd swayed as one massive entity, their movements creating a visual rhythm that perfectly matched the song's message of personal responsibility and change. When he performed "The Way You Make Me Feel," it was no longer just a love song, but a celebration of the way compassion makes us all feel more human, more connected, more alive. As the night progressed, word of what was happening spread beyond the stadium walls. Television crews that had been covering the concert began to focus their cameras not just on Michael, but on the faces in the crowd, capturing the tears, the smiles, the looks of wonder and transformation that seemed to glow from every person present. Radio stations interrupted their regular programming to report on the extraordinary events unfolding in Bucharest, and soon, people throughout Romania and beyond were calling in to pledge their own donations to the cause that Michael had championed that night. The symbolic power of Michael's gesture extended far beyond the money raised. In a country still recovering from decades of hardship, still finding its footing in a new world of possibilities, his actions represented something profoundly hopeful. Here was one of the world's most famous individuals, Someone who could have simply performed his scheduled show and left the country richer for having entertained them, instead choosing to use his platform for something infinitely more meaningful. The message was clear and undeniable. No matter how high you rise, no matter how much success you achieve, you never forget your responsibility to lift others up alongside you. As the extended show finally drew to a close, Michael stood at the front of the stage one last time, his voice hoarse but his spirit clearly soaring. "Tonight," he said, "you have shown me why I do what I do. You have reminded me that music is not just about entertainment. It is about bringing people together for something greater than themselves. Every child who goes to sleep with a full stomach because of what we accomplish here tonight will carry a piece of your love with them forever." The crowd erupted in applause that seemed to last forever, a sound that rolled across the stadium like thunder, punctuated by cheers and whistles, and the collective voice of 300,000 people expressing their gratitude not just for a concert, but for an experience that had changed them all at the deepest level. As Michael finally left the stage, he paused at the wings and looked back at the crowd one final time. The sight that greeted him was one he would carry with him for the rest of his life. 300,000 people, still on their feet, still applauding, many still crying, all of them united in a moment of pure human connection that transcended language, culture, and circumstance. Lighters and matches began to appear throughout the crowd, tiny flames that multiplied until the entire stadium looked like a galaxy of stars, each light representing a life touched, a heart changed, a commitment made to never again turn away from those in need. The impact of that night extended far beyond the immediate donations raised. In the weeks and months that followed, stories began to emerge from across Romania and beyond of lives that had been forever altered by what they witnessed that evening. A young medical student who had been in the crowd decided to specialize in pediatric nutrition. A businessman who had bid on Michael's hat started a foundation that continues to fight child hunger to this day. A group of teenagers who had pooled their money for concert tickets began volunteering at local food banks every weekend. The ripple effect of Michael's compassion spread outward like waves from a stone thrown into still water, touching lives in ways that could never be fully measured or counted. Years later, those who were there that night would still speak of it in hushed, reverent tones, as if they were describing something sacred, something that existed beyond the ordinary boundaries of human experience. They would remember not just the music, not just the dancing, not just the spectacle of one of the greatest entertainers who ever lived, but the moment when that entertainer revealed himself to be something even more extraordinary, a human being whose heart was large enough to hold the pain of every hungry child in the world, and whose courage was great enough to do something about it. The small pieces of Michael's fedora were indeed distributed to charities throughout Romania, and each organization that received one reported a dramatic increase in donations and volunteer support in the months that followed. The hat fragments became symbols of hope, displayed in offices and community centers as reminders that even the smallest gesture, when motivated by genuine love, can create changes that ripple through time and space in ways we can barely imagine. Today, in a small museum in Bucharest, there sits a glass case containing one of those fragments of Michael Jackson's fedora from that unforgettable night in 1992. Next to it is a photograph of the 300,000 people who witnessed history being made, their faces illuminated by stage lights and the glow of their own transformed hearts. The plaque beneath the display simply reads, "The night one man reminded us all what it means to be human." And sometimes late at night, when the museum is closed and the city sleeps, visitors say you can still feel the echo of that applause, still hear the whisper of 300,000 voices joined together in a song that continues to heal the world, one hungry child at a time.